May peace and blessings be upon you. This is your brother, Ibad Wali. Very excited to introduce a new series on America's Islamic Radio on Riyadus Salihin, which means Gardens of the Righteous. This is a book by Imam Nawawi, whose full name is Imam Abu Zakaria Yahya bin Sharaf al-Nawawi al-Dimashqi. And this is a scholar of the 13th century, born in Nawa. It's an area approximately 60 miles southwest of Damascus in Syria. And the scholar wrote this book among many other books, like the commentary of the Bukhari Sharif, the commentary of the Muslim, the authentic narrations of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which are the hadiths, the recorded sayings or observances by the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So one of his works is Riyadus Salihin, which we'll be covering, and it is a work that has been accepted by the Muslim Ummah. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, what race, ethnicity, this book and the collection of the hadiths and the verses of the Quran, the holy book for the Muslims that have been recorded in this, cover all that is needed for a Muslim to lead an upright, pious life. And Imam Nawawi rahimullah in this book begins with sincerity, as is the common tradition of many scholars when they write books of hadith, and he goes directly into the belief in God, the oneness of God, and being sincere, doing everything for the sake of God. Right after that, there are small booklets in which there are many chapters, some of which are covering manners of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and what a Muslim and how a Muslim should have, what good manners he should have or she should have, the etiquettes of eating, dressing, sleeping, performing acts of worship, relationships, you name it, everything and anything that has to do with a human being and how they're supposed to live their life, this book has. So because it covers everything that a Muslim needs, and the hadiths, the narrations that have been recorded in it are sound, this book has gained wide acceptance, and we will be covering some portions of it weekly. We will try to give you a lesson from it. These lectures will be about 10 to 15 minutes each. Let me get right into it by talking about the author. I'll give you a short biographical sketch of the author, Imam Nawawi, who again was born in Nawa, and he began his early Islamic knowledge learning in Nawa, Syria, where a scholar by the name of Sheikh Yasin bin Yusuf Marrakeshi, who was a very saintly figure of that city, observed the young Nawawi at the age of 10 approximately, engaging in the Quran, reading the Quran, and devoting his time to learning the reading of the Quran and memorization of the Quran. He also observed that the other boys his age, who would be playing around and acting foolishly, would come to Imam Nawawi and demand him to play with them, and try to convince him to play with them, and he would constantly explain to them why they shouldn't be wasting their time. At such a young age, he had such wisdom. So Sheikh Yasin observes this, and he then mentions this to Imam Nawawi's teacher, his Quran teacher at that time, and mentions to him that to pay close attention to this individual, because he will be somebody someday. To which the teacher mentions to Sheikh Yasin that, are you some kind of fortune teller, or are you a soothsayer? To which the Sheikh responds, no, I'm not a fortune teller or a soothsayer, but these are words that Allah, that God has inspired me to say. So the teacher conveys this message to the father, Imam Nawawi rahimullah, may peace be upon him, And the father also takes these words very seriously and decides to dedicate the life of his son for the service and the promotion of the cause of the Islamic faith. That's where his journey begins, and although in Nawa there was a shortage of scholarship, there was a shortage of institutions to develop Imam Nawawi, he studied there until he had perfected the recitation of the Quran, and then moved on to Damascus, where that was the hub, the central place where knowledge was being disseminated. There were over 300 institutions, thousands of scholars that were leading these institutions. They were well versed and they were experts in the field that they were teaching. And it's important to understand the history and the context in which Imam Nawawi rahimullah is growing up. This is the 13th century, Imam Nawawi being born on 631 AH, meaning after Hijri, which refers to the Islamic calendar after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, migrated from Mecca to Medina. And that's where the Islamic calendar starts. So 631 years after that, which is roughly 1234 CE, according to the Gregorian calendar, the Common Era. And 13th century was a time where the Crusades took place. The 9 Crusades that took place in that century, from literally the beginning to the end of the Crusades. Along with what's happening in Asia with Genghis Khan and the Mongols, their empire expanding from East Asia to Eastern Europe. Imam Nawawi, on the other hand, was growing up in an area which was controlled by the Ayyubid dynasty in the 12th to 13th century, where there was some stability, and it allowed for the young Imam to develop, whereas other parts of the world there was a lot of wars, a lot of shift in regimes taking place. So it was an ideal place, an ideal time for a scholar to develop. As we see today, God selected him to produce such a monumental work on the lifespan of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Going back to Madrasa Rawahiyya, where the Imam studied, we have a statement by the Imam when he was a student, and he says, "I studied in this institution for 2 years. During my stay in Madrasa Rawahiyya, I never had complete rest and lived on the limited food supplied by the institution." This is to explain and to show how much he sacrificed, and he didn't go above and beyond searching for food or satisfying his needs, but rather focused on the attainment of knowledge and giving his full time and devotion to the learning of Islamic knowledge. He had 20 teachers that were the masters of their field, and he studied hadith, which are the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Islamic jurisprudence, which is basically Islamic law, the principles associated with these fields, grammar, morphology, eloquence, poetry, Quranic exegesis. He studied everything and anything that had to do with the Islamic sciences. The Imam had himself, after attaining such knowledge, began to have students of his own, and we are talking in the hundreds. He had students, and by the end of his life, it was in the hundreds and thousands. The way he would go about his desire for knowledge is that daily he would have 12 lessons. He would write down, the notes that he had in the booklets that he had, in the manuscripts that he had. He would make notes in them directly. He would produce his own explanation of them and commentary of them. He would make additions in terms of the explanations and the notes, and he would develop the science. That's just how he was. He didn't just simply learn for the sake of learning, but added whatever he could to the best of his ability granted by God, by Allah, that he would develop the science further. He was very simple in his manner, in his character, very kind and generous. He would dress very simply, he would eat very simply, and he gave what he had to others, whenever that opportunity arose. There's a scholar by the name of Sheikh Muhyiddin who expresses his impression of the Imam, and he says, Imam Nawawi had three distinctive commendable qualities in his person. If anybody had only one out of these three, people returned to him in abundance for guidance. First, having knowledge and its dissemination. Second, to evade completely from the worldly inclinations. And third, inviting to all that is good, meaning enjoining upon good, and forbidding that is evil. And he mentions again that Imam Nawawi rahimullah, Imam Nawawi, may God be pleased with him, had all of these three qualities. The Imam passed away at a young age, approximately at the age of 40, yet he was able to produce such works as Riyadus Salihin, which we'll be covering. And I hope you can join me in this journey to cover the lifestyle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, where the book begins with verses. Very few verses are presented to contextualize the ahadith, the narrations that will be presented. So I will first go over the verses, the few verses in each chapter that are from the Quran that Imam Nawawi rahimullah has taken, and he has placed them as an introduction to the chapter, and then he brings the narrations to explain the personification or the prophetic embodiment of these verses through the narrations, through the words and the narrations of the Prophet, peace be upon him, as he himself has proclaimed them, or as the companions viewed them and recorded them. Very excited again to have this course, this program with America's Islamic Radio, and I look forward to being with you all and sharing my experience, my understanding with you all, and hoping you can benefit from it as much as I am. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon you.